Effective today, 18 states are increasing their minimum wage. Many of them are already at $15 an hour. Keep in mind, the federal minimum wage is still at $7.25 an hour. To former CKE restaurant CEO Andy Pusner. You know, Andy, despite a lot of Republican calls at the time that this was going to hurt business, we see anything but. We see record low unemployment, and these guys are more than able to handle that. What do you say?
Well, I think it really is a result of the economic surge we're going through right now. I mean, it's, you know, we're already, it surprised me. I thought we'd have an economic surge, but I didn't think we'd be at 3% GDP by the second quarter of the Trump administration, and it should have been close to 4 in third quarter, and the New York Fed's saying maybe it'll be close to 4 in fourth quarter. So we're seeing in the cities that have low unemployment rates, you're already seeing wages increase on their own. With tax reform and regulatory reform, we saw, I mean, a number of companies announced right after the tax bill passed, you know, big companies, Bank of America, Boeing, Wells Fargo, that they were going to 15 for their base wage. And within a couple of days, a bunch of regional banks announced they were going to 15. There's even a website for Idaho that lists 28 companies just in the state of Idaho that have announced they're increasing wages. So this economic surge is having a much bigger impact than any minimum wage
No, I definitely
increases.
see what you're saying, and the wind at the back is what's been happening on the regulatory front and now on the tax cut front. So I understand all of that, but a crafty politician could turn that against a Republican running for re-election and say, this is the guy who was against raising the minimum wage, and look what's going on. Will Republicans rue the day that they fought this as aggressively as they did?
No, look, there's a big difference between the government compelling wages to increase, and all, you know, the best studies out of Washington with Seattle and out of California show that going to $15 an hour in Seattle and in San Francisco hurt working class Americans. When you have compelled, coercive increases in wages because the government increases the minimum wage, businesses close and they reduce hours. When you have economic growth increasing wages, when you have employers competing for employees and putting pressure on wages, then you've got something you can sustain. You've got people, you know, with the money from tax reform, the money from regulatory relief, and the increased business from the economic growth they generate. Businesses are very enthusiastic about increasing employees' wages, despite what you might hear from Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Businesses do actually like to increase wages and see that their employees get more, and that's exactly what you're seeing with economic growth, not with those compulsive, coercive minimum wage increases.
Adam, are you surprised that right now, or Andy, I'm sorry, I was thinking of our last guest. Do you have is it weird that the president isn't benefiting more? This is a legitimate economic boom. Whether he takes all the credit, you know, I'll let economists debate that. But the market has run up a lot since he became president, certainly since he was elected. The economy's firing on all proverbial cylinders, yet his approval ratings are still stuck in the mud. Are you surprised by that?
Only because of the negative media coverage that he gets, you know, extensively. He gets fair coverage on Fox Business, on some of the other business shows. He does not get fair coverage virtually anywhere. Look, we've defeated, forget about the economy for a minute, we've defeated ISIS in Iraq. Iran is a complete disaster. It's a complete mess, and maybe inspired by the fact that we now have a president that would support them, which we didn't have in 2009. And then you look at this spurt in economic growth, and there's no way you can attribute this to Barack Obama, particularly the wage increases that happened last week. Vast numbers of companies announcing they're going to $15 an hour because of the tax bill. So this is, it's amazing that President Trump doesn't get it. But a lot of it was mandated
already, right? I mean, it was going to happen whether these firms liked it or not, right?
Well, you know, I tell you what, if you look, and this didn't get a lot of coverage, so maybe I'll give you kind of an exclusive thing here, but if you look at Associates Bank in Wisconsin, you look at, in your home state, you look at Oceans Bank in New Jersey, you look in Pennsylvania at PNC, you look in North Carolina at BB&C, which did not have a mandate to go to $15. These regional banks all went to $15 within 2 days of these other companies going, because competition for employees increases wages legitimately and sustainably, and that's what we're seeing. This is an amazing economic awakening in the United States, something we've been waiting for 8 years, and with this president and this Congress, we're finally starting to get it.
you know, you were up for the Labor Secretary position and stepped down amid some controversy, none of it of your own making. But I only say that because maybe post that experience, the administration's apparently been having a devil of a time finding people to join it. And now a lot of it might be sort of an anathema with the president himself or the controversy that he generates. A lot of it might be because it's a pretty tough process to go through, almost too personally tough and cruel. What do you think's going on?
Well, look, I think before I went through this process, when I heard that good people didn't want to join government, didn't want to participate in the process because of all the scrutiny he had to go through, I kind of poo-pooed it. I really didn't give it a lot of consideration because I thought the truth would out. What I found out in this process is you can actually be right. You can actually not have committed any of the things that they allege you commit, and you still end up with your reputation smeared. Ray Donovan, when he was Secretary of Labor and was charged with a felony, when he was acquitted, he said, where do I go to get my reputation back? There aren't a lot of people in business that want to get their reputation back. They want to keep that reputation. So it's a very tough process. It's not fair. And I think part of this has to do with the fact that you no longer need a filibuster proof. You no longer need 60 votes to get somebody approved for these positions. So you find that and that's Harry Reid's doing. It's not the Republicans doing. That was Harry Reid. But all you need is 51 votes. And with the Democrats Republicans having that and the Democrats having a very difficult time fighting it, they'll do anything they can to keep people out of office if they think it's a position that's important to them. And I went through that. Others have gone through it. I'm hoping Americans will step up. It's such a great time in our history. You know, I think Sean Spicer said it, and I'll repeat it. If this president asked me to mow the lawn, I'd come mow the lawn. I mean, anything to keep this going. This is an incredible, incredible time in our history, and people need to step up.
Well, you gave yourself an out. It's too cold to mow a lawn right now. But, Andy, good seeing you again. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Neil. Same here.